And if you can play 5th edition, you already know, I'd say 75% of the core mechanical ideas behind Pathfinder 2nd edition. This video is sponsored by me and my SideQuest annual, which is coming to Kickstarter really soon. I'm going to talk more about that later. Greetings gamers, my name is Anto, and today I want to talk to you about some of the main differences between Pathfinder 2nd edition and D&D 5th edition. Over the past couple of months, I've been diving into Pathfinder 2nd edition, making videos about my journey, and I'm going to keep on doing that. So if you want to see more of that, make sure to hit the subscribe. But today I want to talk to you about some of the biggest differences between the two rule systems. It's one of the things I get asked most often now that I'm starting to talk about Pathfinder 2nd edition. I get asked what is the kind of headline differences between PF2 and 5e. Now, I want to start off, before we talk about the differences, I want to talk about what is the same. These two systems share a lot. They share a lot more in common than sets them apart, and if you can play 5th edition, you already know, I'd say 75% of the core mechanical ideas behind Pathfinder 2nd edition. Things like having ability scores and ability modifiers, things like the skills, how you make an attack, the roll a d20, add your modifiers and compare it to a target number. Things like AC, armor class, setting DCs as a game master. All of these things are broadly similar between the two systems. So the big question for this video is, should I learn Pathfinder 2nd edition, and how difficult is it to play compared to 5th edition? What are the biggest differences between the two rule sets? So the first thing I want to talk about that's really different between the two systems is when it comes to determining success. In D&D 5th edition, when you make an attack or an ability check or a saving throw, you roll your d20 and you have 4 degrees of failure. You have a critical fail when you roll a 1 on an attack. You have a failure if you don't meet the target number set by the dungeon master. You have a success, and then you have a critical success when you roll that natural 20. Those 4 degrees of success still exist in Pathfinder 2nd edition, but the way they work and how you get to them is slightly different. This is one of the biggest things that trips people up when they're coming from 5th edition into Pathfinder 2nd edition, and it's one of the things that people really underestimate a lot of the other mechanics in the game around this feature. So in Pathfinder 2nd edition, you have your 4 degrees of success: critical failure, failure, success, and critical success. But the way you get them is slightly different. We'll use an attack as an easy example. So anytime you make an attack against a creature, if you meet or exceed the target's armor class, you get a success. But if you exceed that armor class by 10 or more, you get a critical success. Same if you miss. If you don't hit the AC of whatever you're trying to attack, you fail. But if you don't meet that AC and roll 10 or more below the number, you critically fail. So let's say you're trying to hit something with an AC of 17 and you roll a 6 as your total number with your roll and your modifiers combined. That would be a critical failure. But if you rolled a total of 27 or more, that would be a critical success. Most things in Pathfinder 2nd edition have different effects for the 4 degrees of success. So a lot of the times when you make an attack, things change if you get a critical hit. Some weapons impart additional modifiers or damages or status conditions based on a critical success, and sometimes if you get a critical failure, you get additional kind of penalties to whatever it is that you're trying to do. So where do the natural 1 and the natural 20 come into this? Well, instead of making an automatic failure or an automatic success, what a natural 1 and a natural 20 do in Pathfinder 2nd edition is they raise or lower the degree of success. So if you're trying to hit something with an attack in Pathfinder 2nd edition and you roll a natural 20, it increases your degree of success by 1. So let's say you make an attack roll and you beat the armor class, but you don't get 10 above. If you roll a 20 on that dice, you still get a critical success because you bump your degree of success up by 1. Now, at first, this might just seem like needlessly complicated, and you might be thinking, well, why? Why make it so that it changes? Why not just make it an auto hit? Now, the big benefit of the entire degrees of success system in Pathfinder 2nd edition is every time you gain a +1 modifier, not only is it increasing your chance to hit, it's also increasing your chance to crit, because you just need to get 10 over the number, which means even though there are a lot of small modifiers in Pathfinder that you can get from lots of different places, they actually matter more than they do in 5th edition, because you are changing 2 target numbers. You're changing your to hit target number and your critical target number. Now, as we go through this list, I really want to know what you think the biggest differences are. Do you think I missed anything? Let me know down in the comments below. The next big difference between the two systems is options. Pathfinder 2nd edition gives players way more options and choice points than 5th edition does. In 5th edition, you have a limited number of choice points. At level 1, you're going to choose your ancestry, your background, and your class, and then you're going to choose your subclass, and then depending on what class you are playing, you'll choose either ability score increases or feats, maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the lifespan of your character. Whereas in Pathfinder 2nd edition, you have options at every single level. So you choose your ancestry when you start, you choose your background, you choose your class. But then every single level, you're going to get some kind of choice as you progress. Now, some people will say,
oh, well, if you want to build this type of character, there is only one option in each of these levels, so it's just a false choice.
But that's completely ignoring the fact that you've chosen to play that kind of character, whereas in 5th edition, you make that choice at like level 3, and then you are stuck with that choice all the way. If I want to be a Blade Singer Wizard, I choose that subclass, and then that's it. I am a Blade Singer Wizard unless I completely multi-class. Whereas in Pathfinder 2nd edition, if I want to choose an option with a feat at level 3, I can do that. But if I want to expand my horizons and maybe dip into another kind of playstyle, I'm completely free to do that. And that's not even thinking about archetypes and retraining. So Pathfinder 2nd edition gives you way more choice points as a player, and that can be kind of overwhelming when you look at all of the options at kind of a macro level, and you're going, oh my god, over the course of this 20 level campaign, I'll be making so many choices. In reality, what's going to happen is you're going to start at level 1, you're going to pick from maybe 4 options, and then at level 2, you'll pick from another small group of options, and it's much more manageable than it seems when you look at it as a whole and think, oh my god, there's just so much choice. This video is sponsored by me and my upcoming SIDEQUEST annual Kickstarter. I have a monthly magazine called SIDEQUEST. I've been running it now for like a year and a half, and we are coming to Kickstarter next week to bring you the first 12 issues bundled together in a beautiful hardback book available in print for the very first time. SIDEQUEST is a love letter to all of the gaming magazines of old, so your White Dwarf, your Dungeon, your Dragon, and every single issue includes stuff to inspire both game masters and players. There's a bunch of 5th edition specific mechanics in there, so new class options, so whole classes, subclasses, new spells and magic items, new ways to play the game, new game systems for combat and beyond. But there's also a bunch of stuff for GMs, including new fantastic locations to include in your games, adventures, monsters, and a whole bunch more. There's going to be some early bird deals available for those that pledge in the first 24 hours, and you'll find the link to sign up to get notified when we go live down in the description below. So make sure to go ahead and check out the SIDEQUEST annual. But now back to the video, which brings us nicely into another big difference between the two systems, and that is feats. So in 5th edition, feats are an optional rule. You get to choose one, or you might get to choose one if the DM lets you, whenever you get an ability score increase. Some racial options give you access to feats at level 1, but broadly speaking, you're going to have access to maybe 3, 4, 5 feats at most throughout your entire character's lifespan in 5th edition. Contrast that to Pathfinder 2nd edition, where you get feats every single level and from multiple different places. So when you make your character, you choose an ancestry, and each ancestry has a feat tree. So at different levels, you get to choose between some options for what feats you get for being the ancestry. Every time you choose a background, the background gives you a feat. When you choose a class, you get a list of feats and options at each level for you to choose from. And then there's also skill feats and general feats. And as you progress, you get to pull from all of these different sources at different times at different levels to make your character unique and exactly how you want to make it. Now, again, this can be kind of overwhelming when you look at the whole 20 level progression and you go, oh my god, there's so much choice. But instead, just look at the individual level. You go, right, okay, I am a level 3 fighter moving up to level 4, so I get a fighter feat and a skill feat. So I just need to look at what options are available in the fighter feats and what options are available in the skill feats, and that's the only thing I need to worry about at this level. Another big difference between 5th edition and Pathfinder 2nd edition is skill actions. A lot of the things in 5e that are reserved specifically for the Battlemaster fighter, so things like intimidation and feinting and tripping and a lot of these tactical maneuvers that you might make, anyone can do in Pathfinder 2nd edition using skill actions. Some of them are gated behind being trained in a skill, but as long as you have that skill, anyone can try these things. You can feint to make it easier to hit an enemy, you can demoralize them to make them less effective, or you can do any number of other things to either increase your chance of hitting or decrease their chance of hitting. Next on the list is experience. Now this is a weird one to talk about because you might reasonably think, well, you just gain experience and level up in both systems, right? What's the big deal? The big deal comes from how experience is applied. So in 5th edition, you have kind of a curve, an experience level curve. So to go from level 1 to 2 takes a little bit of experience. To go to level 14 to 15 takes a massive amount of experience. And what this means is that the progression, you have a part of the curve where the progression grinds to a halt. This is something I've experienced in my campaigns. When we hit level 10 or 11, the players really feel like it's taken a long time to get over the hump and to get through to another level. Whereas in Pathfinder 2nd edition, you just need 1000 XP to go up a level. And how you get that XP is determined on the challenge in relation to your level. So the way monsters work and the way encounters work is you go, right, okay, my party is level 10. Is this challenge appropriate for level 10? In which case they'll get so much XP. Or is it a little bit too hard? They'll get this much XP. Or a much too hard? They'll get this much XP. And it's all based on your level, which means has the knock-on effect of encounter building in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Way better than D&D 5e. It makes a lot more sense. There's a lot more guidance for it, and it seems a lot more balanced. But from the player side, because I'm mostly focused on player things here, from the player side, you have a consistent XP gain. You will gain XP much more linearly, and that helps stop that feeling of grinding to a halt in the middle there. It's a minor thing, but I think it makes a much bigger difference than you might initially give it credit for. And then the last thing that I think really separates Pathfinder 2nd edition from 5th edition, it's the biggest thing, it's the thing that everybody talks about, is the 3-action economy. And I've got a whole video up here on the 3-action economy to help you understand what the differences are and why I think the 3-action economy in Pathfinder is better than in 5th edition.